India's economic situation was different in 1979.
Entirely.
India's economic clout is vastly changed now, and that impacts our diplomacy as well. So broadly, would you agree that this is not going to impact India's push towards being a 5 trillion economy, or our headline inflation, like the broad things are not going to go out of whack in terms of where we want to be as the third largest economy?
Unless this ends up as a vastly more prolonged, I mean, let's suppose, obviously, that the Gulf was eventually closed for 2 or 3 years. Now, then a lot of things would change in the world. There will be some producers that would end up producing more. I suspect India could survive even that. But we're talking disruption like that, it would have indirect effects on India because it would affect so many other economies with which India does business. But because India is basically a very large continental-sized economy with very strong domestic demand, diverse resources, I believe it can survive pretty well everything well enough. Not perhaps as well as the US, but it doesn't seem to me that we should be terrified about that. But of course, it will be very awkward. And the longer it goes on for, the worse it will be because it will affect the whole world.
Now, my next question may sound a bit simplistic to you, but if you could please attempt to answer it in the structure I shared, because it's easy to understand for our viewers. On a scale of 0 to 10, how would you compare the impact of this crisis on global energy security compared to 2022, the beginning of the Ukraine war and the impact that had?
Well, if you look at price movements at the moment in oil and gas, it's quite similar. Actually, less in gas and about the same in oil. It went on to get worse after the Ukraine war. So at the moment, if the war ends reasonably soon and the straits are opened reasonably soon, which I would say within another couple of weeks, the impact, I suspect, will be no greater than the shock created by the Ukraine war and could be substantially less because the Ukraine war had some more permanent effects, at least for some countries, not India actually, but for Europe, for example. So obviously, the longer it goes on, given that there's so much production that normally goes through, through the Straits, about a fifth of oil production goes through the Gulf, through the Straits. And if in addition, Iran succeeds in destroying substantial facilities, refineries, production fields and so forth, then the effect will be larger than that. And given the importance of the Middle East as a producer, it produces 30%, the Gulf region is 30% of the world's oil, then the effects could be significantly bigger, I think, in the long term than the Ukraine war has been. But that's not where we are now, in my judgment.
Now let's come to Trump. Mr. Wolf, the US is trying to push the narrative. Rather, let me say Trump is pushing the narrative that nothing impacts us, we're too big, we're too strong, we're amazing, we're great, we're the best, and nobody comes even close to us. But there are also the midterm elections. There is also the internal politics. And there is this comment that you referred to in your own article about Taco, that Trump always chickens out, that his external demeanor of being unaffected is actually a clever disguise for a very insecure person who's constantly worried. We hear about conversations that happen inside rooms in the White House, which are vastly different from his external demeanor, in which case he's a very good actor. But my question to you is that broadly, where do you, this is not the only economic question, where do you see the opportunity of an exit? Because these are uncertain times and uncertain players. We just had news that a Houthi maritime drone and unmanned aerial vehicle strike has hit a US-linked oil tanker in the Red Sea. Now, these are unpredictable players. They're like very sophisticated guerrillas in the ocean. The Houthis are not unarmed. They have various sources, very much latest technology with them. In that sense, the general impression is he doesn't have to chicken out. He needs to move out quickly without appearing to chicken out. Is there a rationale he will follow there? But you also say in the article, by the way, I must quote this part, it's beautifully written. You say, typical British humor, that a part of the difficulty is that it is impossible to know what Trump wants. Maybe he has little idea himself. So how do you read him? I mean, you watch him very closely. You've written about him.
Well,
What's he likely to?
I've watched him, but of course I have colleagues who live in the United States who follow him much more closely. He's not the only person I think about. But the honest answer is he has done things that I had not expected. At the beginning of his term, this term, I thought he would avoid what he's done now, because he indicated very, very strongly that consistently, since he emerged on the political scene, that he thought these long drawn out forever wars, as he said, were a huge blunder, a huge mistake. And so even after the Venezuela incursion, I thought that he would limit himself to something that could be decisive, obviously victorious, and from which he could then easily withdraw. And this judgment has turned out to be mistaken. I had not expected this attack on Iran. And the honest truth is, I don't know anyone who expected this attack on Iran. That's perhaps because I don't know the right people, because it seemed to me inconceivable that it could be done with aerial power alone and lead to a decisive victory, still less an overthrow of the regime, given the nature of the regime and the means the US had. So the relationship between ends and means didn't make sense to me. So it's really been a shock, a surprise. I admit when I don't know, and I think it's been a huge surprise to every observer I know. Now then you're asking, well, how will he get out of this?
Yes.
Well, the answer to that is not easily. But the most obvious thing for him to do, because he's very flexible, is he will stop fighting, he will stop attacking Iran, he will tell Iran he stopped attacking Iran, that he will say to the American people that being completely victorious, we have demolished the nuclear program, we've hugely weakened Iran, we've got rid of their supreme leader, we've shown we're number one, and the Iranians, he will hope, will then say, okay, they've stopped attacking. We've actually already said, which they have said, the Iranian Islamic Guard have said, Revolutionary Guard, that, well, if they stop, we will stop. Well, Trump can hope that they will then stop. Obviously, what they're doing is fantastically unpopular with their neighbors, to put it mildly. And so US stops, says, we've declared victory. The Revolutionary Guard stops and declares victory because they've seen off the great Satan, and it's over. And I think that's still, to me, and I wrote that in my column, less unlikely than any other outcome. But of course, one can imagine other outcomes than that if one starts thinking about it.
Mr. Wolf, what about Iran? Today, Ayatollah Mujtaba gave his first speech as the supreme leader in Iran, in which he warned neighboring countries which have had bases of United States and other countries Iran considers their enemies. He seems to be giving the impression he's preparing for a long-term battle. Economically, can they do that? Infrastructure-wise, how long can they sustain it? And is there anything that the Americans can do in terms of aerial strikes which can bring them to their knees and force them to negotiate?
There is an interesting discussion about whether the US could stop Iran from exporting oil. And I have to say my own, which is, as I understand it, predominantly via Karg Island. My guess would be they probably could do that. If the new regime, the new leader, not new regime, of Iran decides to extend the war to every country that has a base, a US base, then that is essentially an open-ended war on its neighbors. And that would give the US the excuse to say, well, they really are a mortal threat to all these Arab countries. We will really try to take out all their oil production and supply, and we will double or triple down our attacks on Iran. But beyond that, and I don't know, it doesn't seem to have been all that effective so far, The only next step they can take, which one of my colleagues looked at, is ground forces. And that gets them involved in a colossal war in a huge country. And it seems inconceivable. So, but you could imagine this war dragging on for the sorts of reasons you imagine. I think it's less likely than a de facto ceasefire, but of course it could drag on. If Iran is determined, even if the US is withdrawing, to keep going, then effectively the war continues. And that would be a terrible byproduct of this war and show what a huge mistake it is.
Well, Trump's approval ratings are not looking too good anyway. You also mentioned that how mad could Trump get? Could he get mad enough? Last question to you. Could he get mad enough to use nuclear weapons? You said, is Trump mad enough to consider that question mark? You didn't address the point in your article, but interesting that you wrote that. I want a little expanded commentary from you on that. And also, Mr. Wolf, does this change the way the world looks at energy? Will we see a crazier rush for all forms of renewable energy, nuclear energy, which has been on the back burner for a while, or other forms of energy which don't depend on these global supply chains, in this way at least?
Yes, I think on the latter question, the answer is very clear, and I wrote that in that column, as you know, that this has clearly strengthened the case everywhere, except for countries that have huge self-sufficiency in oil and gas, to build up the alternatives, nuclear, renewables, and so forth. And that certainly applies to India. That's very simple. On the question, is he mad enough? Well, I don't know anymore. It seems to me, to be honest, that he's getting madder. He is older, and he's under a lot of pressure, as you mentioned, and his popularity is plummeting, and he must be thinking, can we afford to have an election, and how do we deal with that? But on the specific issue you addressed, I just was thinking about the question, what is the only case in which a country has succeeded in forcing another country to accept unconditional surrender, which is what Trump just a few days ago said they were going for, with an aerial campaign, essentially with an aerial campaign? And the only case I can think of is the end of the war with Japan in 1945. Now, of course, there had already been a huge ground campaign across the Japanese empire. That's clear. So it wasn't just aerial. But what was decisive was dropping 2 nuclear bombs. And that, of course, would change everything. It would be insane and beyond belief wicked. But that's, I think, where Trump will be driven to if he doesn't want a ground invasion, which would also be mad. If he has to accept defeat, a de facto defeat, Iran survives, it continues to do what it was doing before, on the one hand, or an abhorrent means to victory, he might think that the latter is least bad, particularly if he feels so much, as we would say, on the back foot. I don't predict this man. I don't expect such a thing. But that might be where a completely crazy human being might be driven to.
Well, even thinking about it is extremely worrying. But here is a person who's unpredictable and extremely narcissistic. Well, Mr. Wolf, thank you very much. It has been a total pleasure talking to you. This will be very useful for all our viewers across the country. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, and I hope it all ends well. I really do, for India and the world.
For all of us, and the United Kingdom as well. Interestingly, you say there that Keir Starmer probably was trying to do the right thing by staying out. By the way, will he stay out, or is he going to be able to stay out?
I expect we are going to stay out. We have promised to try and help some of our allies in the Gulf, which are long-standing allies. But we do not want to get again engaged in a war with Iran, from which there is no fruitful outcome. And to be honest, I think it's clear from the polls, the majority of British people have lost confidence in Mr. Trump's America. And for Britain, that is a revolutionary development.
Well, thank you, Mr. Wolf. This has been very useful again. Great talking to you. Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you. To the other big story, I hope you found that useful. the overall headline out there, India will go through this extremely strong. That message should go to Mr. Rahul Gandhi. Last night, the former Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, Farooq Abdullah, big headline at around midnight yesterday, survived an assassination attempt. He was going to a wedding reception. It was a close shave, but some sections of the opposition say this is a result of hatred and there's a political debate on it. Here's what happened.
Wednesday evening. The time is 9:20 p.m. The venue, Royal Park in Jammu. In the middle of this group, wearing his traditional Karakul cup, surrounded by his security and well-wishers. And then, out of nowhere, the attacker barges in. He's less than a meter away. He fires at Farooq. The bullet misses and Farooq survives. He's then pinned down by security and guests at the wedding.
पुरानी मंडी पुराना शहर पुराना गांव जम्मू का सबसे पहली राजधानी 1371 की वो भी लिख दीजिए नाम क्या आपका कमल सिंह जम्वाल जी फादर ने सन ऑफ लेट श्री अजीत सिंह जम्वाल अजीत AJIT
अजीत सिंह जम्वाल कहाँ के रहने वाले हो?
मैं जम्मू पुरानी मंडी बताया ना आपको.
Farooq is in a state of shock. He blames the attempt on a wave of hatred.
आजकल जिस माहौल में हम रह रहे हैं, जहाँ पे कि एक नफरत का एक जाल फैला हुआ है, वहाँ पे एहतियात करना चाहिए.
The attacker, Kamal Singh Jamwal, claims he acted as a lone wolf.
क्यों मारना चाहते थे उन्हें? किसके कहने पे आपने जो है वो फायरिंग की थी?
किसी के कहने पे नहीं की.
क्यों की थी फायरिंग?
मेरी अपनी मर्जी से की थी.
क्यों मारना चाहते थे उन्हें?
कौन सा बड़ा मिलिटेंट है?
Farooq Abdullah survived by a whisker. How did the security let it come this close?
Junaid Mattu, former mayor of Srinagar, Chandar Mohan Gupta, former mayor of Jammu and spokesperson of the BJP in Jammu, Advocate Ankur Sharma is with us. Junaid, you have put out a very long tweet after the attack, and you began by saying that this lapse must be probed, but after that, you made it about social hatred. Why should society take responsibility for what one deranged man tried to do? And, why should you try and link various unlinked events to make a commentary on India? Ladies and gentlemen, the visuals on the screen. This is the moment of the attack, and then he's caught. Yes, Junaid, first to you.
Not on the society, not on India, not on an average Indian citizen who is peace-loving. I have clearly said that there has been a rise in the othering, the vilification of Muslims across the country. I have drawn parallels from the Assam Chief Minister's AI video, which an official BJP handle put out, where he was seen shooting in a very jubilant manner as some sort of an achievement at Muslims. And I think Tarun Gogoi's representation was in that AI video. Then I've spoken about the fact that Fakhruddin Ali Ahmed's name was removed from the Barapeta Medical College, who was a former illustrious president of the country. There has been an increase in the incidence of the othering of Muslims in the country. Now you understand that the BJP derives political benefits and strength in its core constituency from that. But my humble question to the BJP and its associated Sangh Parivar organizations, be it the Bajrang Dal in Dehradun, where a Kashmiri shawl seller is beaten and pummeled every other day, or where Kashmiri students are targeted, where they are other than vilified, is that to what extent does a political party or political forces go to sow seeds of hatred? Now, this man must be a gullible man and this seed of hatred must have been sown into his head. But we need to get to the root cause of the issue, that there is an atmosphere of hatred. With all disagreements that I have with Farooq Sahab, he has said in a press conference yesterday that there is an atmosphere of hatred in the country. You look at the statements of Mr. Pushkar Dhami, recent statements, then you look at the statements, this chronic offender of a chief minister we have in Assam, you look at his statements, then you look at the statements of Mr. Rane in Maharashtra, who says that Muslims should be content with living in this country and a Khan can never be a mayor of Bombay. Now, we have somewhere down the line normalized these outrageous statements. And a consequence of normalization of these statements in our polity is that things like these have happened.
My worry with the way you have phrased what you've said is that I can also present 4 counter arguments to you, and then I'll let Chandra Mohan Gupta respond to you and Ankur Sharma respond to you. The debate is between you. You see, you cannot take 4 individual statements to build a narrative. One can equally say in this country we have seen 2 people, hold cleavers in their hands, take a video of themselves and cut a man, decapitate him. We have seen in this country people doing Sar Tan Se Juda on the streets repeatedly. We have seen in this country statements that you remove the police for 15 minutes, then we'll show you who's 80%, who's 15%. And these statements are not made by fringe people. These are made by people who are participants in democracy, who make it a fashion to say Jai Philistine, but will not say Vande Mataram. So if I were to take those 4 examples to build a narrative that there are people who are anti-national, then you would say, no, that's trivializing it. If I were to say that Hindus are being targeted, right, and there is Hindu phobia, then you wouldn't like it. This is also the same country where people still justify the massacre of Kashmiri Pandits or are not willing to come to terms with it. Or are not willing to come to terms with it. To that limited extent. Junaid, to that limited extent. To that limited extent, if I were to add a narrative, allow me to just complete my point. Allow me to just complete my point. If I were to say, these are countless cases of targeting of Hindus, and Hindus are being targeted in this country, then you would say, no, you are building an argument, a fake argument of Hindu phobia. I'm saying we must desist from this. See, this is one man who I'm told was inebriated, drunk, who had a gun. He's not a representative of Hindus. He said, I've done it on my own. This is his view.
Nobody said.
Can I get Chandra Mohan Gupta to respond to you before you come back to it? No, he is not. Chandra Mohan Gupta, the argument Junaid makes is that
nobody said that. Of course he's
he is a drunk man who's tried to shoot Farooq Abdullah. I don't know why a counter narrative is to be built in any way, but I'll get Chandra Mohan Gupta to give the contrary point of view. Chandra Mohan ji.
पहली बात तो ये है कि मैं माता वैष्णो देवी के चरणों में बैठे हुए सबसे पहले यही कि डॉक्टर फ़रूक अब्दुल्ला जो बड़े भारी वैष्णो देवी के भक्त हैं, बावे वाली माता के भक्त हैं, और कोई नुकसान ना हुआ, ये सबसे पहले मैं माता रानी का बड़ा आभारी हूँ। और जहाँ तक बात हमारे भाई मट्टू साहब कर रहे हैं नरेटिव की, और इस कश्मीर के अंदर जहाँ से वो है वहाँ क्या क्या नहीं हुआ, माइग्रेंट 36 साल से हो गया। अगर ये बात कर रहे थे शाल वाले की, स्कूल वालों की, स्टूडेंट्स की, तो इस कश्मीर से कितना हिंदू किस तरह मार के भगा कर किस तरह काट के किस तरह निकाला गया। जब पूरे देश की अगर हम बात करें तो कहाँ से ऐसे काम नहीं हो रहे हैं, लेकिन हम उस तरफ नहीं जाते हुए यही बात कहेंगे कि डॉक्टर साहब के ऊपर वाले ने, ईश्वर ने, भगवान ने, जो अल्लाह ताला ने जान बचाई है उनकी, जो नहीं तो क्या हालात होते, कैसा होता, ये है। बाकी ये अब जो मामला है ये अब पुलिस के पास है, सब जस्टिस है, जो भी अगला उसके ऊपर इंक्वायरी होगी। हम चाहते हैं कि अच्छी इंक्वायरी हो, उसका पता चले कि वो जो आदमी था जिसने जो अपने आप को वो कह रहा है कि मैंने खुद किया, ये उसके पास गन थी, वो अंदर आया, तो ये बात की बातें हैं। लेकिन सबसे पहली बात ये है कि जो डॉक्टर साहब जो उनके साथ जो 2-3 साथी गए थे, हमारे डिप्टी सीएम गए थे, या नासिर वानी साहब थे, या और कोई वीआईपीज़ थे, उनकी सुरक्षा जो है वो हमारे सिक्योरिटी फोर्सेस जो उनके बॉडी गार्ड थे उन्होंने उनको कैसे एक्टिव करके बचाया, ये बहुत बड़ी बात है। आने वाले समय में हम चाहेंगे कोई ऐसी वारदात ना हो, डॉक्टर साहब और आगे जिए, 100 साल पार करें। हो सकता है उनके कोई मन में कोई बंदे जो जिसने ये गन फायर किया कोई रवेज हो या क्या है, नहीं, ये बात की बातें हैं। लेकिन जो हमारा जम्मू कश्मीर के अंदर जो 36 साल से पिछला हमारे लोगों ने भुगता है, विशेषकर कश्मीर के अंदर, चाहे वो टूरिस्ट है, चाहे वो अमरनाथ यात्री है, चाहे वो पहलगाम का अटैक कह लूँगा, चाहे और पुलवामा का अटैक कह लें, ये हमारे मट्टू साहब बेटर जानते हैं। उसके ऊपर इन्होंने बात करनी चाहिए। जो भी कोई गलत काम हो, चाहे स्टूडेंट्स के साथ हुआ है या शाल वाले के साथ हुआ है, हम उसकी भी निंदा करते हैं। लेकिन आने वाले समय में हम जब से 11 साल से नरेंद्र भाई मोदी की सरकार इस देश में चल रही है, मैं चाहता था, एक समय था यहाँ कश्मीर के अंदर, जम्मू के अंदर, कहाँ कहाँ हर रात मंदिर में, रेजेंसी रोड में, बस स्टैंड में, कश्मीर हर जगह बम भी बम फटते थे। और 11 साल से डे बाय डे ये स्थिति जो है, चाहे वो ठीक हो रही है।
चंद्रमोहन जी, मुझे क्यों बुरा लग रहा है कि जुनैद ने जो बात कही है, कि मुझे लग रहा है, और मैं अंकुर जी को कहूँगा वो सामने आए और उनकी बात रखें, उसके बाद आई गो बैक टू जुनैद, कि एक बहुत बड़ी जनरलाइजेशन जुनैद मट्टू ने कर दी है। उन्होंने बोला है कि ये व्यक्ति विशेष जो 63 ईयर ओल्ड 63 साल के एक, कहा गया ये शराब के नशे में थे वो, और उन्होंने ये क्या, ये कह रहे हैं ये रिप्रेजेंटेटिव है भारत के। मैं कह रहा हूं नहीं है। जैसे जिन्होंने जिन्होंने सर तन से जुदा कहा, वो भारत के रिप्रेजेंटेटिव नहीं है, वो भी नहीं है। नहीं, वो भी नहीं है, वो भी नहीं है। और आप कहते हैं नहीं, आप देखिए, वन मिनट, वो है ना, ये है। नहीं, और एक बात आपको कहूं मैं उसके बाद। देखिए अंकुर जी, आज ये कह रहे हैं गो टू ईरान लोग बोल रहे हैं, ये नहीं कहेंगे जुनैद जी कि नरेंद्र मोदी जी की सरकार ने कितने कश्मीरी स्टूडेंट्स को वापस लिया ईरान से सुरक्षित, और जहां जहां मिडिल ईस्ट में जितने जगह प्रभावित हैं, कितने लोग वापस आए, उसमें से कितने कश्मीर के लोग थे, कितने हिंदू थे या कितने मुसलमान थे, सब भारतीय थे। कभी क्या मोदी सरकार ने कहा हम कश्मीरी स्टूडेंट्स को वापस नहीं लाएंगे? तो मुझे लगता है आप वन साइडेड स्टोरी दे रहे हैं जुनैद जी, और पता नहीं क्यों दे रहे हैं। और ये एक आइसोलेटेड इंडिविजुअल इंस्टेंस है। आप एक इंडिविजुअल आदमी असैसिनेशन करने की कोशिश कर रहा है और पूरे भारत पर आपने कमेंट्री कर दी। मैं चाहता हूं अंकुर जी आपके बात का रिस्पॉन्ड करें और उसके बाद आई विल कम बैक टू जुनैद। अंकुर जी।
जी, thank you. First of all, as a BJP spokesperson, I would like to say the differences in ideology or politics can never justify attempts on someone's life. Any violence against a political leader,
I agree,
or anybody is an attack on democratic institutions,
completely,
an attack on democracy. So in no unequivocal terms, we condemn as a party, as a representative, as a spokesperson of the party, we BJP condemns this attack in the strongest possible terms. But having said that, it is not a time when you should be trying to once again play a victim card by building a narrative which has no foundation of its own in the given circumstances. And when you do so, and in fact that has been the modus operandi of the tribe, which is being now represented here through Mr. Mattu, in the sense that Muslim victimhood is something which is now paradigmal. It has taken a paradigmal, thing to always play. He talked about othering of the Muslims.
Yeah.
In fact, Jammu and Kashmir is a state which is a textbook example of the Hindu genocide, the continuous, uninterrupted, constant genocide of Hindus. And othering is one of the stages in this process of genocide. So this is not the time when we should be talking about, playing the victim card or blame game, etc. Now is the time to stand united against violence. Violence is unacceptable. It's an attack on democracy. Violence has no place in a civilized society. So I think we should more be talking about as to how we can prevent violence in the society. We should be talking about the protocols that need to be put in place so that incidents like this do not reoccur, never happen. In fact,
but is it not a concern at the same time? I'll get Junaid to respond.
By citing,
is it not a concern today? He's a Z category. NSG security classification is among the highest tiers of security. NSG Z category cover There were no local police present at the venue. Is that not a failure? If you see the video there, I don't know if I saw the video, Ankur and Junaid.
No, absolutely.
He just, the security person is not even attempting to block. He comes in with a gun, and the security person around him is not even making an attempt to stop him from coming close and reacts only after he's fired the shot. I don't know. I mean, this could have been fatal, Ankur. On
yes,
that,
I mean, the protocols need to be redefined and accountability has to be fixed. Absolutely correct. No politics on this. Accountability needs to be fixed. Security protocols have to be reviewed. And what is the role of local police? What is the local, the role of the bodyguards that were surrounding the VVIP protectee? That has to be looked into. This is not something that can be brushed aside. We cannot be taking sides on this. Accountability has to be fixed. Protocols have to be reviewed. And whatever are the lapses or have been the lapses have to be plugged. It is not about Mr. Farooq Abdullah only. It is about our democracy. It is about a civilized society. It is about the polity. And I think...
I just want to ask Junaid this. Junaid, I've known you and followed you for a while. Your own security cover was taken away. You had Z category security cover. It was taken away about 8 days before this attack. Is that one of the reasons? You said this is a measure aimed at silencing me. You're trying to say withdrawal of security cover is political.
I still continue.
No, but
I still continue to be a Z category protectee, but without any security. And this has been done to me twice in the last 2 or 3 years.
What do you mean you are a Z category security without?
Whenever there is a political.
What do you mean? What do you mean Z category?
My security has been withdrawn arbitrarily. I'm still a Z category protectee on paper by the State Security Review and Coordination Committee. But my security was lifted within a matter of 15 minutes on the 3rd of March because of my statements, nothing to do with India's internal politics, but against the US and Israeli invasion, in Iran. It was attributed that I had shared some video, which factually I hadn't, others had. I never shared any video. But I don't want to make it about myself.
No, but should it?
I don't want to comment
just broadly,
on
Junaid, should it not be also necessary for a person who gets security from the government of India, paid for by the taxpayer, to owe complete allegiance to the security and sovereignty and, to the territorial integrity of the country and to law and order in the country, not do anything which can spread a distorted narrative on digital platforms?
You're speaking to a person who became, Arnab, you're speaking to a person who became the first mayor in Srinagar, in the history of this city, pre-2019, not post-2019, who hoisted the tricolour on the Srinagar Municipal Corporation complex. I've faced 3 assassination plots by Lashkar-e-Toiba and the ISI. They've been formally conveyed to me. The threat intercept that entitled me to a Z category security is the same threat intercept and input for Mr. Altaf Bukhari and another BJP leader. They still have that security. So in the course of my politics, if you expect that everything I say should be palatable to the powers that be, and if it is not palatable, I will be left to die, I would be equally extremely surprised that even you are not you don't stand in opposition to that being done. But that's fine. I mean, life and death is in the hands of the Almighty. That's completely okay. Till the 3rd of March, I was a Z category protectee. On the 4th of the March, all my security was withdrawn because somebody didn't like what I said. And no formal proclamation or review was done. It was arbitrary. But as I said, with all humility at my command, I don't want to make it about myself. I want to state 2 or 3 things. Please hear me out, Arnab. One, I never said that this gentleman was a representative of any religion or the idea of India. To the contrary, I have said that he is an affront to the idea of India. He is an insult to the idea of India. I have never said that this person...
But he's an individual.
A section.
He's an individual. He's not part of an organization. He does not have a political handler.
But
he's not of a financier. There's a larger organization behind.
Well, that is being
so
probed.
He's a madman.
No.
A madman who's
Arnab, that is still that is still being probed. He has some connections. No. He has some connections with the right wing. That is being probed. He leads some Jagran Manch. He has some connections in Jammu with the right wing.
Very general connections
and
with the right.
People know about it. But I don't want to make it about that.
No, but
I don't. But Arnab, please,
I have
please
no
allow me
problem
to
with
finish.
your other points.
Tell me,
I'm just
when
saying to you that Why
when
would
a murderous
you see this?
Arnab, when a murderous criminal, just let me make my point. I'll hear you. Just let me make my point, a very limited point. When a murderous criminal, a deranged mind who happens to be a Muslim, commits a crime in some part of the country, the same evening, what is the narrative in the news channels?
I'm sorry, you're completely wrong. To the contrary.
There is radicalization.
No, it's not. Oh, no, it's not. One minute.
One minute.
Junaid, that is completely wrong. If you were to look at the narrative, each time that individual is treated like an individual, even terrorism is not called Islamic terrorism. It's radicalized Islamists who do that. We always draw a line. And one point on security, I'm totally with you, but this government gives security to even Subramaniam Swamy. This government even gives security to all the opposition leaders. So that may not be true. However, I do agree with you. This is a very concerning incident. I have strong personal difference of opinion with Farooq Abdullah, but I am shocked that, but it's a member of the host family. Another thing, Junaid, you're not understanding here, that the gentleman who shot this, am I right, Ankur? He's a member of the host family. So that he smuggled in a gun. जहाँ पे शादी हो रही थी जिसका रिसेप्शन उन्हीं के परिवार से linked है, I'm told.
नहीं, Arnab, I agree.
That's correct. In fact, he has confessed it on the camera. He has confessed on the camera
governor of
that
JNK
he happens to be one of the cousins of the family.
There would have been access control.
Which had organized this function.
No, there should have been better access control, no doubt.
It doesn't mean anything.
There should be better access control, but it's terrible what has happened. But anyway, Junaid, it's good to talk to you after a long time. Chandar Mohanji, Ankur Sharma ji, at least we could have a conversation on this. It's very important. And everybody has a right to protest in our country. There's no problem as long as it doesn't touch law and order. Thank you very much. Gentlemen, bahut dhanyawad. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, why I believe that this LPG crisis cannot be fought by the government alone and why it needs you. Why it needs you to step in when we are back.
Time for a quick breather. Arnab will be right back with the debate.